Hawks knock off another East contender. The Heat get a big win at home. And the Lakers, they're fine. This is Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA, your daily source for all things NBA from the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making this your first listen. Appreciate you guys being with us on a Tuesday. My name is Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network, joined by Tony East. He does all things Indiana, every single team in Indiana. If there's a team in Indiana, Tony East covers it. Tony, how you doing?
Excellent. Weird night in the NBA where every game wasn't that great except for one. Heat Suns was awesome, and the rest were kind of eh.
Yeah, just another night in the association, but we'll get to everything that you need to know from that, as well as we'll talk about the Los Angeles Lakers and a report that they're actually not going to be going all gung-ho on the trade talks.
Wow.
See how long that lasts, as well as we'll talk about the possible return of Jaren Jackson Jr., Triple J, 3J, Trip, whatever you want to call him. He's making his return likely to the Memphis Grizzlies on Tuesday. We'll talk about what the impact of that will be for the Grizzlies short and long term. I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists, available 100% online. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. All right, Tony. So we split up duties on this Monday night that we're recording this. And so you get to talk about what I think is the most interesting and maybe relevant outcome of the evening, which Heat Suns may have been more exciting as far as the finish goes, but I felt like Bucks Hawks actually maybe taught us a little bit more. Bucks a little shorthanded, but what did you see as the Atlanta Hawks got another big win on the season?
Yeah, the Bucks were 10-2 entering this game. They lost to the Spurs in a game that they threw, right? Like none of their guys played that game. And they lost to the Hawks when Giannis played. Like they lost a real game to the Hawks. And so the Bucks were playing the Hawks again. And I wanted to see, one, can the Hawks do it again? And two, can the Bucks figure it out? And the Hawks have this guy on their team named Clint Capella, who just happens to be a perfect match to stop what the Bucks are doing. The Bucks love to score at the rim. They've got a bunch of powerhouses. They drive like crazy, and they were missing some guys in this game. Like you said, that's pretty important. That Drew Holiday guy's pretty good. No Chris Middleton, but Giannis did play, and the Bucks tried to attack the rim, and they couldn't do it. Capella was fantastic in this game defensively, finished plus 14. That was huge for the Hawks. DeAndre Hunter was doing his thing, getting to the foul line himself. He led the Hawks in scoring. Like Trae Young was just kind of okay in this game. It was weird. Like Trae and Giannis were just kind of okay, but a bunch of other guys stepped up in really meaningful ways. And I thought the way the Hawks were defending the paint was really impressive. And for the Bucks, this rookie Marjon Beauchamp was standing out to me. He was burying threes left and right, trailing in transition, being a real threat for this team. So while the Bucks did lose without some of their key guys to the Hawks again, they did find something with their rookie playing really well in this game.
Yeah, Beauchamp, honestly, that's like such a big deal for them long term, right? The Bucks are are one of those teams that they're on two paths in the regular season. Need to rack up wins. They're on pace to do that. Also need to figure out some of the rotation stuff and see if they've got guys that can contribute come playoff time. And like they need Beauchamp to contribute. Like, they need shooting, and they need somebody who's a little bit younger than Wes Matthews, who is basically the crypt keeper at this point. And so like they need those kind of wings. So I think that helps. I think this Hawks team is good. I was a little bit skeptical of them coming in and was like, well, okay, look, can a perimeter guy really reshape a defense? Can a guy like DeJounte Murray, who's not like Drew Holiday or any of these other guys, can he really have that kind of an impact? And I was really skeptical. I just didn't necessarily think that was going to happen. But you look up and the Hawks are 8th in defense now after tonight's game. They held the Bucks to a 103 defensive rating. Their attitude with DeJounte is a little bit nastier. It's a little bit meaner. And they're not quite so, Trae does everything. Trae's this the guy. Look at Trae. This is Trae's team. Go team Trae. Like it's actually a little bit more like a functional team. I did a bet stream the other week on Hawks Knicks. And when Trae got hurt, that team played with a real nastiness and an edge to it. And it was really impressive. Now, I'm not saying they need to get rid of Trae Young with 21 points and 9 assists tonight. I am saying, however, that I'm actually gaining a little bit of confidence in a team that I've Robbie Callan always says, never trust the Hawks. I think I might be starting to trust the Hawks a little bit from at least a regular season perspective. I think they got something going here with the addition of DeJounte. They don't have to just hit shots every night to win. No Drew Holiday, no Chris Middleton. That obviously matters, but this is a pretty good win for the Hawks.
Yeah, their bench guys and their young dudes continue to be pretty good. Like every time I watch the Hawks, I feel like AJ Griffin's not playing enough, and he just gives them quality wing minutes. DeAndre Hunter being healthy is really helpful for them because he can kind of do it on both ends, right? They gave him almost $100 million for a reason. He showed it in this game. 2 more Bucks notes for me. 1, Grayson Allen, 9 minutes and 30 seconds. If you're watching the box score, ankle injury for a Bucks team that already didn't have Drew Holiday and is relying on a rookie. Yikes! They need some help on the health department. And 2, I watched the Bucks a few times this week. Javon Carter is looking good this season. He's stepping up in a way for them that they kind of need with all these injuries, and George Hill not being as good. So Javon Carter's been good for them. That could be helpful for a team with title contention. But credit to the Hawks. They're the only team that can beat Giannis this season. They did it again.
Elsewhere, the Miami Heat, I did not think the Heat were going to get this win. I did not think the Heat were gonna find a way to win this game, and this was a very much a Heat pull this one out, very grit and heart at home Heat culture game. The Heat beat the Suns. No Chris Paul in this game, very notably, but they do beat the Suns 113-112 on a wild ending sequence. Bam Adebayo goes for 30 points, 10 rebounds, 9 of 18 from the field for Bam. Great night for Bam, being aggressive, actually scoring. Jimmy Butler only goes for 16 on 12 shots. That's a little uncommon, even if he had some huge plays at the end. Kyle Lowry, 15 points on 14 shots. This was an ugly, ugly game, but somehow get the win. Devin Booker, 25 points on 22 shooting, shot 50% from the field, but wasn't enough to get the job done, even despite a 25-8-5-3 line. Pretty good from Devin Booker, but not enough help. Sun shot 14 of 36 from 3. Not awful, not good enough there. And the Miami Heat are able to get the win with what is absolutely, by the way, big complaint from Suns fans, understandably, in this game. 25 free throws for the Miami Heat and 4 for the Suns. Tough one there. What did you see?
Yeah, the other thing the Suns are going to complain about is their end-of-game execution. 13-point lead for Phoenix with about 7 minutes to go in this game. The Suns hit 102 on a Torrey Craig bucket with about 8 minutes to go. They did not hit 106, so 4 more points until the 2:43 mark. Their offense completely fell apart. You can't do that against Eric Spoelstra because the Heat are going to find ways to score random buckets down the stretches of games. They did that over and over and over and chipped back, got the lead. The Suns got it back. The Heat got it back. Like, the Suns just completely fell apart. They had it with about 8 minutes to go and just couldn't put the ball in the basket. So they're relying on Devin Booker on the last possession. They get 3 looks at a win. Jimmy Butler stuffs Devin Booker's elbow jumper. Super impressive play from Jimmy, and then stifles him for a right wing 3. The Heat really did a fantastic job closing this game out because until that moment, without 8 minutes to go, they looked dead in the water, but they figured it out. That's what the Heat do.
Let's take a break. We'll go to Los Angeles Lakers, who, according to reports, are not looking for the panic trade, at least not yet. We'll do that when we come back on Locked On NBA. But first, got to tell you about Sweat Block. It's starting to get cold outside here in Colorado. It's absolutely freezing already. It's really cold, which means layers. And if you layer, that means sweat on the inside. You don't want to deal with that. That's why you use Sweat Block. You use it one time, you're good for a week. Just once. Take a shower, get out, apply it, go to bed. No sweat. 1 week. It's absolutely phenomenal. The wipes are your little secret to confidence. They work up to 7 days per use. You apply them on a Sunday. And like I said, you stay dry all week. They've got great customer reviews all over Amazon. Check it out at Amazon and get the reviews yourself. If you or someone you love is experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, try Sweat Block. You save 20% with promo code LOCKEDON at sweatblock.com. Also available on Amazon. We're also brought to you today by Rocket Money. So the other day I tried to cancel my Amazon Prime subscription, and it took me 4 different tries. So how long does it take to take 3 hours to deliver a purchase? But to cancel my subscription, I got to go through all these plans. The worst, honestly, is some of the newspapers that I've subscribed to through the years for various reasons for work, and trying to go through their departments. It's a huge pain. And I don't want to have to deal with it. That's why you got to use Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill. Do you know how much your subscriptions really cost? Most Americans think that they spend around $80 a month on subscriptions when the actual total is closer to $200 or more. That's right. You could be wasting hundreds of dollars each month on subscriptions you don't even know about. Rocket Money Podcast Talking Points. There's this app I love using that takes care of all that, and it's Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill. They'll find subscriptions you didn't even know that you were paying for. Cancel unnecessary subscriptions with Rocket Money today. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Seriously, it can save you hundreds per year. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. We'll be right back on Locked On NBA. Back here on Locked On NBA, thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Matt Moore alongside Tony East breaking down Monday night in the NBA. A couple other scores, just to kind of break through these before we get into the Lakers news. The Toronto Raptors finally beat Dwayne Casey after 6 straight times of him beating them. Pistons did cover the 5, though. Now 10-3 under Dwayne Casey versus the Raptors. No Kate Cunningham for the Pistons. No Fred VanVleet. Yeah, no Fred VanVleet, Precious Achiuwa, Gary Trent Jr., or Pascal Siakam for the Raptors, but Banton, of course, goes for 27, 4, and 4. The Hornets, when they looked like they were doomed to get a win over the Orlando Magic, just when the Magic looked like they'd actually turn things around, they once again kind of fall apart again. Maybe the bigger story, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with 37, 8, and 4 as the Thunder push the Boston Celtics. But the Celtics extend their winning streak to 7 as they go to 11-3 with a 126-122 win over OKC. Can't believe OKC is scoring like this right now, but boy, they are lights out offensively. And the Clippers improved to 8-6. Looks like the panic is over for the Clippers as Paul George goes for 22, 8, and 5 to topple the Rockets 122-106.
Matt, so quick note. The most random thing happened in this game. Shout out to Doug Branson, formerly of this network, for tweeting this. The Hornets made 7 less threes than the Magic and got out rebounded by 11, and they won. What? That game makes no sense. The Hornets make no sense this whole season. Credit to the Hornets for never turning the ball over and somehow winning that game. Okay, carry on.
Let's go ahead and talk about the Lakers. So Mark Stein, the Hall of Famer, wrote in his newsletter on Monday. He was out in LA and kind of talking. He talks with Darvin Ham and was looking at them and all these types of things, and basically did like a whole conversation. The outcome that he kind of got to was that the Lakers are not looking to change anything until they get back full strength. And you ask, like, what do you mean full strength? Stein wrote, the Lakers have indeed looked at free agents for a potential in-season roster boost. First Mo Harkless and more recently Joe Wieskamp and Tony Snell. Are you excited yet? But the sense I got from spending the past week in LA is that their preference is to wait for the returns of Dennis Schroeder and Thomas Bryant before making judgments that could lead to changes. The Lakers have high hopes that Schroeder in particular can give the offense a boost after both he and Bryant sustained thumb injuries during the preseason that required surgery.
These are names.
These are names. Here's
what I'll say first and foremost. I do get the belief because their defense is okay, right? They're about league average in defense this year. They definitely need a kick in the pants on offense. And if you had to pick a side of the ball that Dennis Schroeder and Thomas Bryant are better at, it's offense, right? Thomas Bryant had 2 straight seasons with the Wizards shooting over 40% from 3. The Lakers are last in 3-point percentage, second to last in 3-pointers made. Like, in theory, that's helpful. Dennis Schroeder was good for the Lakers. This kind of core 2 years ago, he does provide an offensive punch. Not the best shooter, but an offensive punch. Right? I understand why, given what their weaknesses have been, they would think these 2 guys can really help them. But I don't think it's going to be like enough of a boost to kind of overcome the struggles that they have with their roster construction as a team. Does that make sense?
I like Thomas Bryant. He's a full year removed from a major injury. Like, I was high on him in Washington, so he could legitimately give them kind of a boost. Like, I could see that working because AD playing 5, you're just waiting for him to break into little pieces and then shatter and have to have somebody like a cartoon cat come out and scoop him into a dustbin and take him out. So I think having a viable center that you can play next to who can actually spread the floor like Bryant can, that might actually help.
Agreed.
You got Pat Beverly. Why do you need Dennis Schroeder? Like, you got one pain in the ass. Do you really need, like, is that the difference that you're missing here? I can't get around the idea that, like, we have enough evidence now after the last 4 NBA seasons that if you're looking at your situation and you go Dennis Schroeder is the answer, you are asking the wrong question. Right. And that's not even to say that I think Dennis Schroeder is awful or no, he's like a perfect. I think he can play in the NBA. He's hard to get along with, but so are a lot of guys. Perfectly fine to go out there. This does not take you from where you are currently to 500, let alone contender. This doesn't get you to 500. It's just not enough. And so, look, a lot of this is just posturing. And you know this from covering the Pacers. Like a lot of this is just they're in this weird game of chicken where the Lakers, I guess, are like, oh no, we don't need Miles Turner and Buddy Hield. We got Dennis Schroeder and Thomas Bryant on the way. And the Pacers, meanwhile, are just like, look at it. Oh, look, Buddy Hield hit another 4 threes. Oh, Miles Turner had 5 blocks again, leads the NBA in blocks per game. Huh. Like, it's just this ongoing standoff between the two. And eventually the Lakers will probably get over it. I don't blame them for wanting to be on their timeline. They take all the time that you want, but there's only really one way that this ends. I think it just depends on whether or not the second pick gets thrown in. That's really the only question here, right?
Yeah, I don't know where anything has progressed since the offseason. Like, the only report we've really had since the season started was when they were 0-3, 0-4, and Woj said on ESPN he thinks, or he's reporting, I guess thinks is the wrong word. He reported that the Lakers are going to wait till after Thanksgiving, right? About 20 games, really assess their situation, right? So in the interim, they could maybe get these two guys back or figure out, hey, Russell Westbrook off the bench kind of works somehow. Like they haven't been winning, but he has been better. And like he was the crux of a lot of their trade stuff. So they have kind of swapped the deck chairs on the Titanic a little bit better, but it's still doing just that to me. So I don't know when they'll decide to reinvigorate trade talks with anybody, right? There was that Josh Richardson, Doug McDermott thing in there that got talked about for a while and a bunch of random stuff with the Jazz. But either way, you know, the Thanksgiving timeline does match to what Stein has said here of, you know, okay, we're going to wait a little bit, get these two offensive threats back and see if that really helps, because they still would be replacing, like, presumably, I don't cover the Lakers, but from my seat, like a little less Troy Brown would help them too, just because it's not that he's been awful, but it'd be helpful to have less of him, and like getting a better shooter in it big instead of Wenyen Gabriel or Damian Jones. Like, some addition by subtraction will happen too. Like, I get why they think all this stuff and why the urgency might not happen, but you're right. I don't think it gets them to a 500 team. When you have LeBron and AD, you need to be way above that. So yes, this might be a temporary solution, but I don't think it will get them to where they need to be right now.
My co-host on Locked On Nuggets brought this up today, and I think it's absolutely amazing. So the Lakers beat the Nets on Sunday, and I had the Lakers in that game. Thought they would win that game, and the reason is because the Nets played the Clippers on a Saturday afternoon, and then had the night off in Los Angeles, and then magically came out and looked not great on Sunday versus the Lakers. The Los Angeles Lakers have 3 wins on the season. They are 3-10 on the season. 2 of those wins have come on Sunday. They are 2-2 on Sunday and 1-8 every other day of the week.
Is the one the Dyson Daniels free throw game too, or they like shouldn't even have won it, or was that also a Sunday game?
It's one of the ones they won at home.
Okay.
So, as it will always be true until time ends, until the heat death of the universe, LA nightlife is undefeated. We'll take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk about Jaren Jackson Jr., who returned to the Memphis Grizzlies on Tuesday, according to reports, most likely at least. We'll dive into that and what it means for Memphis, as well as a few other NBA thoughts when we come back on Locked On NBA. First, I want to tell you about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is awesome. Okay, it's daily fantasy made easy. You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they will score more or less than their prize pick projection, you can win up to 10 times on any entry. A good one to take tonight. Luka Doncic is going to absolutely probably have a monster game versus the Clippers. He gets up for these battles with the Clippers and Terrence Mann. He's got a little thing there. It's a prime spot with the Clippers coming on a 3rd and 4 back-to-back. And the Mavericks are at home. That's a pretty choice situation. Also, Domantas Sabonis. I think he's going to have a monster game because the Nets' big problem is that they have trouble with versatile, dynamic bigs. Well, Don't get much more dynamic. Well, you do with Nikola Jokic, but in general, there's very few that are more dynamic and versatile than Domantas Sabonis. So you can put those two in something and really make something happen on Prize Picks. You're not competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections. And they offer projections on any sport you want to watch. NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, men's college basketball, women's college basketball, Tony, soccer, WNBA, esports, NASCAR, tennis, MMA, boxing, disc golf, Eurobasket, cricket, and more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's just that easy. They offer safe and fast withdrawals, and they're available in over 30 states and Canada. Download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. You put in $100, they give you $100. Just that easy. You put in 50, they'll give you 50. Don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON and sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. We'll be right back on Locked On NBA. Final segment here on Locked On NBA. Thanks for being with us on a Tuesday. Matt Moore and Tony East breaking down all things NBA. So Tony, Tim McMahon of ESPN, legendary reporter, phenomenal guy to hang out with in the bar with, by the way. Just Tim's a good hang. Tim McMahon reports that Jaren Jackson Jr. is questionable for Tuesday's game versus the New Orleans Pelicans and could make his return in that game. Now, it's going to probably come down to how Jaren Jackson is feeling. Getting him back this early would obviously be a huge boost to Memphis. They've been a little banged up. They've had Steven Adams miss a little bit of time. They just really don't have anybody to duplicate what he does. Desmond Bane's questionable for this game. But that's just for this game. Like, just getting Jaren Jackson back this early. And there was some idea that it might have been January at the worst for him. And Memphis had kind of foreshadowed that it was going to be closer to the start of the season than January. So good on Jaren Jackson for attacking his rehab and getting back. What do you think will be the impact of Jaren Jackson on this Memphis Grizzlies team?
Matt, I know you know this, but let's offer some people a peek behind the curtain at injury reports. Very rarely does a guy go from out for a while to questionable unless he's probably going to play, because the team doesn't want to have to deal with all the questions.
Unless you're Chris Paul, apparently. I'm not mad at this. I'm not mad at
this. Usually this is the case because teams don't want to deal with like, oh, he's still out. Like, why did you change the designation? So not always, but a lot of the time this suggests he'll play. Look, Jaren Jackson, everybody knows what he's awesome at. He's an awesome defender. The Grizzlies finished top 5 in defense last year. Their defense was better with Jaren Jackson in the game than off the floor. They went from a pretty good defense without Jaren Jackson to like an, oh my, this team can stop anybody defense with Jaren Jackson. And right now, the Grizzlies, who were awesome last year, second in the West, pushed the Warriors in the postseason. Who knows what happens if Ja doesn't get hurt, right? They probably would have lost still, but who knows? They are not as good on defense this year. Currently 20th in defensive rating on Basketball Reference's D rating. I'm sure some other sites have it a little different, but whatever. Not good. Below average on defense this year. You can have some fluky numbers early in the season. That's fine, but they would like to be better on that on defense. Jaren Jackson will 100% help them in that way. And oh, by the way, he can also shoot the ball and move, and he's an awesome big man, and he's from Indianapolis, so he's obviously going to help the Memphis Grizzlies substantially. But I think the defense thing for a team that it doesn't look bad, but doesn't look as good as they did last year, is going to be a helpful step forward.
Yeah, so they're 16th at dunks and threes. I use that one a lot. You mentioned like all these other
That's
sites.
Great. Yep.
Dunks and threes I like a lot because it does schedule adjusted. So that kind of gives you the perspective. Yep. But they're maybe a little bit better than the raw numbers. But I'll just tell you, like, I think this team really needs Jaren Jackson. Now, I will say Jackson had an injury 2 years ago, I believe a meniscus in the bubble. 3 seasons ago, 2 years ago. Boy, time is weird in the pandemic. In the bubble, he was coming back from it, and he just wasn't really the same. Like, he just did not look the same when he got back from that meniscus injury. And so, like, I wonder if there's going to be, like, a little bit of delay in where he gets to coming back from the injury. Like, it just takes a little bit of time. He's also a player that I still think is a little bit incomplete. I've been waiting to kind of see him have go-to kind of offensive options, which are things that they need. Now, they've gotten the offense to be humming quite a bit in terms of transition stuff, and Ja's athleticism obviously leading the way, and Desmond Bane's evolution as a shooter really helps. I'm really curious to see, like, does Jaren Jackson just immediately slot in and make this team into the kind of force that it was last year? I think that's kind of the idea. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. this is a great starting example versus a Pelicans team that I think is actually better than their record. I think Memphis is slightly worse than their record. I think the Pelicans are slightly better. So with Steven Adams versus Jonas Valanciunas and Jaren Jackson versus Zion, should be a really fun game and a good test. We'll see what Jackson looks like, especially the jumper can be an issue and the foul trouble are the other two concerns with him. But if he comes back and makes an impact, it's going to be a big deal. And obviously, honestly, credit to the Grizzlies guys, Senti Aldama, that's filled in. Like, they just made that work in this time.
He's been great.
And honestly, like, Taylor Jenkins is awesome. Like, that coaching staff's ability to get guys and have them contribute continues to be really impressive.
Yeah, I think a key thing, like, look, Jaren Jackson made all defense last year. Like, I don't have to sell anyone on how good he didn't. I don't know if he actually led the league in blocks, but he was up there. Like, I don't have to sell anyone on how he's going to help them on that end of the floor, and he did that next to Steven Adams. It's not like this is a new thing for him, new situation. Yeah. But the 3-ball is a big thing for me because that was something early in his career that it looked like he was going to be pretty good at as a shooter, and some of it was at the 5, which is a little different than his role now, but even at the 4, it doesn't feel like you just become a worse shooter because you're at the 4 instead of the 5. But the 3-ball hasn't been there the last 2 seasons. 2 seasons ago was a small sample, but I think that's a big swing thing for him in terms of coming in and being able to ease in a little bit, right? Not needing to play as much, not needing to be full force, and really needing to be is if he's hitting his threes, then they can kind of ease him in a little bit more because he'll be more of a two-way player than a defensive stopper who can fill in gaps on offense. I think that's going to be a key swing for him and this Grizzlies team.
Let's go wrap it up for Locked On NBA. Thanks for joining us. Make sure to tune in tomorrow. You got Jake Madison and John Corrales on tomorrow's show.
I thought you were saying that with like a comma in between, like Jake
Corrales. Corrales. Jake Madison and John Corrales on tomorrow's show. On Thursday, you got Pat the Designer alongside Nick Angstadt. And on Friday, my Locked On Nuggets co-host Adam Mares and Wes Goldberg. David Ramel should be back next week alongside Tony. I'll be out for the holiday, so make sure to check that out as well. My thanks to Tony. Tony, before we go, I do want to get your answer to this. I'm just hitting you up on the spot here. In 5 years, Tyrese Halliburton and Benedict Mathurin will be a blank duo in the NBA. So, top blank duo in the NBA. Mathurin and Halliburton. 5 years.
I mean, they're already both 20-point per game scorers.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me not to at least say 10. But man, I mean, it's crazy how good the Pacers have been compared to expectations, and those guys both being able to score on very good defenders already. And Ben Mathurin getting to the line all the time as a rookie have been ridiculous. So as they get better and play more together, I mean, it's hard for me not to say 10, maybe even 5, depending on
I
where.
think you're being too light. You're being you're being very Pacers fan. Let's normalize expectations. Don't take that. Don't take the Herb Simon route and settle. Be aggressive. I think they'll be top 5. I think I'm really impressed with both of them. Mathurin looks absolutely amazing. All right, that's going to do it for Locked On NBA. Follow Tony on Twitter at TEastNBA. If you want to follow me, I'm on HP Basketball. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys again next time on Locked On NBA.